Okay, so if you watch the rest of the videos on how to save $10,000, this is going to be the checklist you've got to do. Okay, so we're going to walk through every single specific aspect around saving that first 10,000 bucks. And I want you to think through, this is just for 10K. Okay, so the first thing, look at what you're spending your money on. Go look at your bank statement, analyze everything that you're spending your money on. That's the first step. The second step, and write all this stuff down on a piece of paper. The second step, okay? Now you're gonna look at everything that you spend money on, then you're gonna look at your variable costs and your non-variable costs. Okay, so the things that cost the same every single month, those are non-variable. Okay, the things that change every single month, those are variable. So things like your gas bill or air conditioning, electricity, your food bills, all that stuff, that's gonna be variable. So that's the stuff that we're gonna try to commit to going cold turkey. Okay, so I like to actually call this cold turkey economics. All right, so we're gonna look at this and say, instead of eating out, instead of buying, as much as I hate to say it, organic food, as much as, going out and doing lavish things, going to the restaurants, drinking, partying, things like that, cold turkey, it doesn't happen. Instead, until you save that 10K, you're actually just going to buy the groceries at, let's say, Aldi's or something, some local place. You're gonna decrease the air conditioning, or you're gonna turn the air conditioner off when you're outside of the house. If it's the winter time, you're gonna turn the heat down when you're gone. You're not gonna use the dryer, okay? You're gonna get one of the laundry hangers, a wooden laundry hanger, and you're gonna hang out your laundry, because that is going to actually pay off. I'm telling you, when you're trying to save 10,000 bucks, we're looking at $750 to $1,000 extra dollars a month. That's all we've got to do. So you're working a job. Okay, now the next step, if you remember the side hustle discussion that we talked about, okay, the side hustle video that's in the same playlist, we're looking at side hustles specific to saving 10,000 bucks. Okay, so if we're looking at this, we want non-skilled side hustles. I mentioned things like, lawn mowing, doing gutters, painting, mulching, anything along those lines, right? Those are relatively low skilled things. You could be cleaning, doing anything that's gonna be much more as far as like hands-on type stuff. The one thing I want to point out that I did not bring up in the side hustle video is that if you have a job, I do think one thing you can do is that you could actually go talk to your employer, okay? And you actually say, hey, what can I do right now to make more money? And one thing I want to bring up, we had a kid at the gym, at my business, and he needed extra money. So we said, okay, pick this person up from their house. I'll pay gas money an extra 50 bucks every week. That's 200 bucks a month. Not even adding any extra work. So you're driving for Uber, you're doing Uber Eats. Now you can expedite the process, okay? So you set up that side hustle. The third thing here, okay, after you go through your bank account and you're looking at the variable and the non-variable stuff, then you have the side hustle set up. The third thing that I really want you to do is to set a start date. Okay, so when you set a start date, the biggest thing here is now you have a point that you're starting, okay? You're gonna say, I'm gonna start on this date, and it's gotta be in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so you're writing that on this checklist, okay? The goal is that we get this done, let's say in a year, save 10,000 bucks in a year, okay? And you're gonna go cold turkey economics. We're not eating out, we're not drinking, we're not doing anything crazy, and we're just rolling, okay? Now, the next thing that you need to do, in the past I've said, just checking in savings. If this is something that you would like to do, you can set up that high yield savings account, okay? You can go through and get a high yield savings with pretty much any online bank. SoFi has one, a lot of these online banks have them. So now you can get, an extra 4% return. So we're just putting in, it's not gonna be a ton, but every month that you put in that extra 750 bucks to 1,000 bucks, now that goes into high yield savings, okay? So we go through this specific checklist, and then we're setting this up. We are not thinking about retirement funds. We are not thinking about the rainy day fund. Like that's like the next step. You're starting to have that thought process moving forward. Like, yeah, this is going to be the next process. But the biggest thing that I think I personally got confused by was that I started to read things and listen to things that instead of saving 10K, I started to think about how could I save $1 million? And really it's a process along the way of just establishing each point, each benchmark, because things change as you go from one aspect to the next. A real simple thought process here is that if you're looking at, let's say, getting to $100,000 or getting to $10,000 is going to be like just grinding work, okay? Getting to 100,000 is going to be like 75% grinding work, 25% some investments here and there. Now, when you go to $500,000 or $1 million, that's when we start to think through more investment stuff, more things outside of that realm. I want to actually show you guys something here. So this tree just went down in my backyard, and this is a good example, right? I've got guys that work for me. Yo guys, I'll pay everybody 30 bucks an hour. We'll get a couple chainsaws running. Dude, this is actually huge. Look at how old this thing was. Man, I can't believe this came down. That thing's a monster. But you can go through and look, all right, here's the kicker for me is that something like this, okay? So this tree, guess what? Guess what? We heat our house with firewood still. So this tree goes down, and now this tree is probably going to save me $5,000 a month or $5,000 a year, probably for the next 3 years, which is great, absolutely fantastic. So the big thing here, obviously now where I'm at is that I can take that money that I'm saving and I can start to play around with it and invest it. But if you're somebody who is at this 10K mark, you're literally just looking to, I need to make sacrifices so that I can get to that next spot, because you're not comfortable with it where you're at. You're not happy with where you're at. The big point of where you're at is you need to prove to yourself that you can get to the next spot to be more comfortable, to have better finances long-term, but you have to grind at this point for anywhere from 7 to 12 months, okay? But it's following the checklist. It's literally thinking through, and that's where the high yield savings account is sort of like, I would say the springboard for the next point, because you're just looking at it and you're going, I've got to try and go cold turkey with my finances, okay? I've got to decrease those variable costs as much as I possibly can. I got to make sure I got a reliable vehicle. I'm out of breath. I got to make sure I have a reliable vehicle. I've got to go through all these things. I'm only buying food that I'm preparing from the grocery store, okay? I'm only going to spend money on absolute necessities. I'm not going to buy new clothes. I have plenty of clothing right now that I can just continuously use. If I need new clothes, I'll go to Goodwill until I get to this freaking point of 10K. All right, and then that's going to change things. It's going to change your habits. It's going to change the way that you're aware of your expenses. And then you have more control. You're not just sitting there constantly thinking like, man, how am I ever going to get ahead? You're much more aware of the actual control that you have. The big factor I want to bring up is not that in the US, it's not that we don't have the income, okay? It's that we have problems with how we spend and then how we strategically move around. So if you want to put this stuff into the high yield savings account, okay, and we talked about this, we did a video on the one account you need to get to 100K. Now that's going to set you up for that next jumping off point to get to 100K. But I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go through the checklist. Okay, I'm going to go through and say, all right, let's actually start with setting the date first. The date and the goal. Next thing we're going to look at our bank account, where we spend the money. Okay, then we're going to look at the variable costs. We're going to try and dial those variable costs back $300 to $500 a month. Okay, that's the next big thing. After that, that's where the sacrifices come in. After the variable costs, We got the side hustle set up. Okay, after the side hustle, now you start freaking moving and going forward, and then you take that extra money, you put it right into the savings account, and it's gonna happen faster than you think. You're gonna get to that $10,000. So this is a $10,000 checklist that you can use. It's simple, just execute it over and over and over again. I hope this helps somebody get that $10,000 mark. Peace.